Hey, good evening, everyone. Good evening, Dean Kulaweera here. Let me know in the comments if you can see me and hear me okay. I know that it takes a few seconds usually for people to start getting the notification, but let me know in the comments. And yeah, it looks like the notification went out. Okay, so we're good on that. So special episode today, folks. I'm continuing my Tech Talks live stream, which I had put on halt for a bit, and I have a special guest today with me, Jaspreet Dole. So let me know in the comments who you are, where you're tuning in from, especially if you're in Toronto. Make sure you represent Toronto in the comments, and or wherever you are from in anywhere in the world. Let me know in the comments again who you are, where you're tuning in from, and let us know if you're a PM or a project manager. Maybe you're an aspiring project manager. So my guest today, Jaspreet, is going to be sharing. We're going to be talking pretty much anything and everything about project management, best practices, challenges, mistakes, the disconnect between tech teams and business. So a whole bunch of topics within project management. And Jaspreet is kind enough to spend about half an hour with us. So let me know in the comments, folks, if you can see me and hear me okay, and where you're tuning in from. Looks like I do have some people tuning in, but it seems like you guys are shy. So let me know in the comments, all right? Don't be shy. Let me know in the comments who you are and where you're tuning in from. Let me just get started with my introduction to Jaspreet in the meantime, while you folks start putting the comments. So Jaspreet and I actually met on connected over LinkedIn, and so Jaspreet has been awarded the Future 50 from PMI and has run IT projects from web and mobile to interactive solutions to e-commerce to enterprise application integration to AI, ML to infrastructure. There's very little she hasn't done, folks, and she's working with CIBC via DXC technology. She's been featured in multiple times on PM Network, which is the Project Management Institute's magazine. She's been featured on books, podcasts, and transforms organizations through agile adaptation and implementation. In the past, she also co-founded a startup for on-demand mechanical services that graduated from Founders Institute. So, folks, in the comments, make sure you give a warm welcome to my guest today, Jaspreet. Let us know any of your questions that you have, project management related, whether it's from a task, duties, and responsibilities standpoint, or even career questions regarding this very popular space, right? So I'm gonna bring Jaspreet on shortly. If I can just get to it over here. There we go. Hey, Jaspreet, how's it going?
Hi, Jane. I'm good. How are you? Everything's good.
Good. Yeah. So I did a quick intro about you. Did I miss anything or?
No, I think it was a bit too much.
Okay, got it. So we have some shout outs here from a few people. So Vikram says hi from Toronto. We got Ritika in the house. Nice to see you here, Ritika. We got Suchet all the way from Waterloo. Awesome. Thanks for tuning in, Suchet. And we got good initiative with the guest speaker. Yeah, awesome. Thanks for that feedback, Vikramjit. So firstly, if we, just to kind of kick things off, Jaspreet, what got you into project management?
Okay, so I'll just give you my background. So
Yeah,
I
sure.
was just like second year college and eager to find a job. So I started self-studying, started doing programming and all that. So I thought I was going to be a software engineer. That's what I thought I was going to be.
Right,
But
right.
my boss thought I was very good at communication skills and I was very outspoken. So that's basically how I initially landed into project management.
Okay. Now you mentioned something pretty interesting, like about being outspoken. Now, would you say that this is like, when you're a project manager, obviously you're dealing with people a lot, right?
Yeah.
Um, is it right for me to assume, and for those of the viewers tuning in who have an interest in project management, how important is the communication aspect? Like, do you have to be outspoken? Like, do you have to be very aggressive? Like, what are some key characteristics?
Yes, I mean, project management is mostly all about communication. It's
Yeah.
about your ability to communicate at various levels, your ability to communicate on the technical level, your ability to communicate on the business level. I mean, whoever you have different types of stakeholders and you need to speak their language.
Yeah.
the language that everybody understands. So yes, I would say you will really struggle if you're really not that outspoken, because there will be a number of issues or risks that may be bothering in your head, and if you cannot speak those out and you cannot seek the mitigation, or you cannot think of solutions on spot, or talk about it with your team openly, you will really, I think, fail as a project manager. I mean, they say there is about like 90% of the work is all communication in project management.
Right, right. Okay, okay, understood. Now, most of the viewers tuning in, Jaspreet, I mean, they're probably in tech, and they're probably PMs as well. But for those of the viewers who might not be familiar, can you explain like what's the overall function of a PM?
So basically, you will have a goal. I mean, I would like to explain it to somebody who doesn't know what is project
Okay, okay,
or
fair
what
enough.
is a project management at all. So basically, you have a goal. For example, you want to develop an application, or you want to do an upgrade to some OS or something like that. So you have a goal. And then within that goal, you also have, of course, money associated with it. Like you have some time constraints, you have some money, and now you have this whole goal that you have to accomplish within a certain amount of time and certain amount of quality, of course, you have to produce,
Mhm.
and a certain period of money, time, quality, risk, and all those. So basically, a project manager is the person who initiates everything and is responsible for the overall successful integration, initiation, planning, design, execution, monitoring, closing, invoicing, whatever you have to do. I mean,
Right.
from start till the end. So you might be changing teams. I mean, for example, if you're working for a big company, you might be starting with the sales pursuit. Like sometimes that happens. So you might be involved in initial planning where you're giving your input on how much of the budget might actually this project will take or not. So and then you will be doing some resource planning. How many people would you need on your team? 10, 20, how many?
Okay.
And so that's like the overall big project manager on a bigger level. If you are already handed, I mean, there are different types of projects, right? So there are time and material, there are fixed budget, there are different various types. So basically a project manager is just a person who is responsible for the start till the end. So whatever happens in between, you're supposed to run and lead your team. I mean, setting clear objective expectations with each of your team member and what they're supposed to do. It's your responsibility to define those, you know, objectives, scope, and what's out of scope, and what kind of methodology are you going to use. Of course, there is no one framework that fits all your projects. So it
Yeah.
is also the project manager's responsibility to ensure what kind of processes or methodologies that are going to be best suitable for a certain kind of project. So that's basically how you do it.
Okay, okay, understood. So out of curiosity, what do you personally like about project management?
I personally love that I get, okay, so as a project manager, I think you learn so much because I am not restricted to what can I do. So my skills are usually very transferable. So what happens is today I can do a project for different, I mean, there are different, tech stack in IT.
Yeah.
For example, there is infrastructure, there is this, whole data science, or there is this e-commerce, but the project manager is the only person who can easily transition from one kind of project to another without having, I mean, without having too much of a steep curve in learning. So
Okay.
basically, most of the skills that you have used in previous project can be applied into the new product. But the good thing is that you always get to learn about the new industry, the new type of tech, and of course, you have to keep learning. It's not like, because I think it's hard to get outdated with this kind of career.
Yeah, yeah.
So because for sure, like the programmers, if you are a .NET programmer or if you're a PHP programmer, okay, the language might diminish. I mean, sure, the syntax may be different, the core logic remains, but for a project manager, it's just so easy. We can today I might be doing an infrastructure project, tomorrow I can go and jump into mi, AI project to,
Yeah.
and then the day next I can literally go to different industries. I have done projects, for example, for manufacturing companies, and then there are projects for oil and gas. So not just because you are in the middle of tech and business, you
Mm.
also get to learn about the business of particular industry as well. So not just the tech, or I mean you also learn how the business behind those companies work. For example, I was recently working for aircon production company, so I knew like how they were, assembling those parts and what kind of
Interesting.
customer
Okay.
service. Yeah. So I think that's what's keeping me in this line.
Okay, okay. Now, would you say that there are some, obviously you worked on these different types of projects and different types of industries. Are there some that you kind of lean towards? Do you prefer?
Hmm.
Don't worry, I
I
won't tell
mean,
anyone.
you can tell as if I'm scared of anybody. Okay, so do I actually? I mean, I lean towards the type of project that mostly challenge me, because I'm
Okay,
not
okay.
the type of person who wants to keep on doing things repeatedly, or if I
Yeah.
feel that I can just close my eyes and do it, I don't think that's very good. Uh, Another thing I would say, like leaning towards projects. I mean, of course, I want. Okay, if you ask me today, Jazz, there is this web development or mobile application development project. Would you do it?
Mm.
And then there is this project which has like maybe augmented reality. Which
Yeah.
one would I pick up? So of course I'm not going to do web or mobile
Okay.
application. I've done that, and I want to get into something new, something more advanced, something that is going to come in future.
Mm.
So my preferences, they don't stick. I think every year it changes.
Okay, interesting. Now, why is that though? Is it because you understand the importance of exploring these new types of projects? Is it because you want to expand your area of knowledge, or is it simply because it keeps you kind of on your feet? You're learning new things and new industries and things like that.
I think it's more about the later, because
Okay.
the last thing you want to do is like get stuck and restrict your capability or your knowledge, right? So
Yeah.
of course you need to know what in future is going to work, and you might get ideas, because the new tech that's coming up, that will have some loopholes, and those loopholes are basically the solutions that people develop. So that is interesting.
Okay, got it. Now, would you say, Jaspreet, like, would you say it's a mistake for a PM to only stick to one kind of project or one kind of industry, or is it more so like a preference there? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
I personally think that it can harm you.
Mm.
Well, that's how I think.
Yeah.
I mean, for sure, there might be people who do not want to get out of a certain type of industry or certain type of project. But for me, it's more about having the variety of portfolios under your belt, because not just having, because for example, let's say I'm doing application development project. After a year or two, I will already get to the point where I can close my eyes and go ahead with it, right?
Yeah.
So if all your life you're just working on that, and then at some point, I mean, there has been a lot of fuss around this AI taking over in project management and stuff like that. So if if you're restricting yourself into just one area, I think you will harm yourself, like big deal.
Okay, okay, understood. Fair enough, fair enough. So I do see some questions in the comments, folks. So hang tight. I'm going to get to the question shortly. So Amit, I saw your question. I'm going to have Jaspreet respond to that shortly. But any questions, folks, you have regarding project management, put it in the comments. I'm going to have Jaspreet respond to your questions shortly. So Jaspreet, I mean, moving on into the kind of the day to day for project managers. Like, what's a typical day like for a project manager? I know it's a very dynamic role, but what does that typically look like?
I think I would like to define it according to what stage are you in a project.
Mm.
So if you are on the initial stage where you are working on writing, for example, the proposals and budgets and all that, so that's more of planning. And if you are in the execution stage already, so that is more about team management, coordination, resource management, motivation also.
Yeah.
So there are sometimes you're a motivational speaker, and sometimes you are a bad, what you call this, witch with
Oh,
the and sometimes you're a data collector. I mean,
okay.
it, it depends on what kind of stage you are, but I would say it's a lot about communication. Basically, at certain stage of project, you're either communicating with with your clients maybe, or then there is this other stage where your most of the communications shift towards your team on
Mhm.
making sure and monitoring and controlling the project basically, and making sure that everything is being done, and then basically sending out updates and keeping everybody in the loop. And then of course then you also want to engage your team, so some of the team building activities should be there so it doesn't get boring. And then, I mean, a lot of emails, a lot of meetings, a lot of documentation also, because documentation is not dead. I mean, there are people who will say that if you, the world, I mean, the world is going from waterfall to agile, and now we have to kill this waterfall. I personally do not think waterfall is bad. I don't think that person who developed it, who is alive, I hope he doesn't get to hear this from people. Because I mean, there are a few things that have been really carefully taken into account, and I believe I usually go and take hybrid approach into different types of methodologies. And so for me, documentation is not dead. So I do take a note of things, because you cannot remember everything on top of your head. So for example, you have to be very, what you call this, to be able to see the future with the
Forward
globe.
looking,
No,
forward
not
thinking.
not with the globe, right? So,
Okay.
not like
Side looking.
astrologer. Foresightedness. So you should
Foresight.
be
Okay.
able to, you should be able to predict what could go wrong. I think that is what could go wrong or what could go right, and have that response. So I think that's one of the most critical skills here, because you do not want any issue to just happen and then you are just realizing how did this happen, because you need to watch out for those small indicators.
Okay. Okay. Excellent. Now, Jaspreet, when we spoke before, you mentioned you know about this disconnect between tech teams and business. Can you talk about that, please?
Mhm. Sure. So there is this dilemma, I think, in within the technical people. For example, our developers. I mean, I work in IT, so that's the only project management I'm talking about, not construction.
Right. Okay.
Okay, and so for example, like there are times that mostly it's told that like our developers or the technical super technical people, they are not very outspoken, or they are mostly introverted, or they think that the business cannot understand what they're doing. Okay, so what happens is whenever they are given a certain timeline or a certain pressure, and they tend to take shortcuts, or then that introduces problems like deep inside the code,
Mhm.
which normal people cannot see with bare naked eyes.
Yeah.
So so what happens at some point, it gets to the point that the system starts malfunctioning, there are bugs, there are issues, and people are wondering why is this happening. And it's just that there is a lot of disconnect between the technical teams and the business, because the technical people, they do not really understand how to quantify or how to speak in financial terms regarding the issues that they might be having, or why a certain development would take a month or 10 days, or somebody else might be giving them a proposal, oh hey, I'll give it to you next day. So there
Mhm.
are shortcuts that people are taking, which will actually become a huge problem over time. So I try to always relate it to this principle and interest, right? So you want to only take um, you want to borrow a loan, but you also have to give it back,
Yeah.
right? So if you're taking a shortcut, it means you're planning certain time where you will pay that debt back, because if over time you keep on letting it be there, your interest over time becomes so much more than your principal amount.
Mhm.
So what's important is that our technical people, they need to be able to understand, explain, for example, that these are our current issues or bugs, or that are residing inside our code or
Yeah.
inside your technical stuff. So they need to already come up with the easy knockdown, like which can you already um, get rid of. I mean, how can you fix it, how much time it will take, and what is the severity impact of not fixing them today, and and what can it cause in the future. But there is another idea. They also need to understand why in the first place, sometimes on the business perspective, sometimes it is actually normal and acceptable to take those kind of introduce those kind of bugs or issues or shortcuts, because there may be many different reasons. So for example, there are times when you have to go live with a certain feature,
Mhm.
and then you might want to retire that feature in future. So for that kind of case, you do not have to really waste your time into developing the most optimal solution, or the most optimal, what you call, the plan for it.
Yeah.
So the business need to be able to actually tell the I mean, how much of a big deal it is to really fix it. So that is the business perspective. So it is okay, like, you can sacrifice, for example, the long term health. Sometimes it is acceptable. So that those are, I mean, you don't it is not always bad to take shortcuts, but the reason for taking those shortcuts should be very clear.
Okay. Okay. Understood. So Jaspreet, in terms of like best practices, and what are some best practices that you can advise to other PMs?
Hmm, I think a strong risk management. Because there are issues that can happen and will happen, and that are in your risk register somewhere. So you already want to develop that team who will respond to that risk if ever it happens.
Okay.
So that team doesn't necessarily have to be active, but you need to have that in place. And then another best, like, I mean, you cannot be a PM without this. Like, you need to have that communication happening, the expectations per each role, for each task, for each scope, because you cannot just not have a clear objective and go ahead with it, with the project, and you cannot really successfully deliver a project
Yeah.
if you do not have that right expectations with everybody. And then the other one is regarding change management. So you need to keep track of how initially the project was initiated or started, and how the architecture was made. And if, because there are things that might affect how the architectural design of a project was developed initially. And of course, in agile, people say you come and bring in your change anytime, but you have to be mindful of how you are going to integrate it in your project at a certain time. So it is always important to ask the most stupidest questions that come to your mind. Just go ahead and ask it, because worst thing you can do is just assume and build something, right? And then, like, tracking your project progress from the start, because
Mhm.
there are times that people in the initially they just go happy go lucky, let's dance. And
Yeah.
then, but there comes a point in the middle of the project they feel that, hey, we are not on track. So it is because initially you let loose, and then towards the end you are squeezing people. That is no, because if you're going with the plan or with your strategy from the start itself, you would ideally do the project in a very efficient manner throughout. So
Right.
I would focus a lot more on planning initially, because if you can plan well, I mean, sure, there will, I mean, I know a lot of project managers will want to throw water on my face right now. And so, I mean, sure, like, the planning can go wrong, but at least you would have a number of things in your mind and go through your issue list, your risk list every single day. I try to do it. Like, okay, this is what can happen. What am I anticipating? So because I personally think that your mind has this, even when I'm sleeping, this guiding system where it already tells you that this can happen or that can happen, this might not happen, that issue is gone. So you have that internal guiding system, so just follow your intuition also. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, okay, fantastic, awesome. And folks, I see some questions. So Amit, Aisha, Dave, I'm gonna get to your questions shortly. So before we get to the Q&A part, just one more question is, what's your advice to like new graduates or people looking to make that transition into project management? Any advice for those individuals?
Sure. If you are already working, so I think recently, like becoming a Scrum Master is easy.
Mm.
If you are already a Scrum Master, you can already be a PM also easier. So if you are a QA, so a lot of transition that I have seen myself coming into project management is usually from the QA people who are doing quality assurance. So and then if you could get onto some sort of, let's say, agile project or something, you can already get that scrum master role that is easier to get or get in. I mean, you don't necessarily have to be given the title of the leader to be the leader, right? So you start showing that initiative and start, basically it's all common sense. Okay. So you just you start showing. I know that there are types of companies or countries, for example, that won't give you a certain title until you have certain years of experience. I have heard that, but
Okay.
I have been lucky. So your luck has to give you some credit. Like, I think just take on that responsibility. I mean, study your project management books and all that, because there are thousands of methodologies here. Once you can talk, and then you can just walk your talk. Just that's how that's how it goes. I mean, I think that's how it goes, because you have to, if you are working for a large organization, for example, there is this tendency where a certain employee won't talk to his manager what he actually wants, because there is a fear of judgment, or they might think, the boss might think that I'm going to quit because I'm going to tell him what my aspirations are. But I think what is more important is, do not think of that small time. I mean, what somebody else would think of you. If you have a desire to be the PM, just go ahead with it and tell your manager, this is what I want to do. Do you have another project? And build your connections throughout your organization. If you're, especially for a big company, if you're working for a big company, there are so many people. You
Yeah.
can talk to everybody. Go to your LinkedIn, check your company, and see. Right? There are so many people. You can literally initiate a conversation. It's so easy to, especially, I mean, you have that common ground. Now you can already tell somebody that, hey, I admire whatever you are doing, how can I get there? And people have this tendency to try to help people.
Yeah.
So they would readily do that. And if you are, let's say, another very easy way to become a PM is to just join a very small company, and then from firstly get your project management experience in a small company. That's how I started it.
Yeah.
And then once you already have that project management experience, a big company is not going to ask you, do you have 10 years of experience or not? Because it doesn't matter anymore. Because you already talk like a project manager, you think like a project manager, you respond like a project manager. So there is no more questions.
Yeah, yes, I definitely see that the smaller companies definitely have a lot of opportunities within them to get started in this area. So okay, okay, and one more question. I know I said that was supposed to
No,
be,
no, you can take it.
but one more I had to ask you is, I mean, you're pretty popular in the PM space, right? I mean, you've been awarded the Future 50. You've been featured on the PMI magazine. So my question for you, Jaspreet, and this is for the viewers who might be wondering this as well. Like, how did you, first of all, how did you get to be so, public like that, like, and recognized like that? And secondly, what impact, like, has that had on your career?
It has, firstly, I would say, okay, there's a story.
Okay, okay. We like stories.
I have a lot of stories always. How did I actually get famous into this? Okay, so I mean, I'm a personally like very driven type of person. I don't need external motivation, and of course, I was trying to get this PM certification where I got bluffed by some company, Indian
Oh, I see.
company, my company, my my country's company. They bluffed me. But anyway, and then what happened was I joined a number of PM groups on the internet, and a lot of people started to help me, and I started making friends, and I finally cleared my certification, blah blah blah. Okay, I got it. And then I, since I got pushed around, I had made a decision that, okay, if ever somebody asks me help for a certain kind of thing, I'm going to help because somebody
Mm.
helped me, and I owe it to the community now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
Okay.
that's how it basically, that's how it started. I think it's all about kindness, being nice. I have never even expected I would be on a magazine, I would be this PMI thingy, I would be speaking. I've never imagined any damn thing. It was not planned. And
Yeah,
it
yeah,
just flew. I mean, once these things started, for example, getting into this one time, like 2017 or 18, something like that. So I got into the magazine. So, and then it it follows. They say
Mhm.
success brings more success.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
don't know.
It's
That's how
more
they say.
momentum.
Like, it's a matter of getting started. I think
Yeah.
once you have that entry in, then it's easy.
Okay. Now, and the second part is, what impact has this had on you, like on
Oh
your?
yeah, I have not answered your question. I'm so sorry. Uh-huh. Yeah,
No
I
worries.
think it has very positively
Yeah,
impacted my career because not just I okay. So after I have been engaged with this PMI stuff and all that, it gives me a lot of network. People who are really driven, people who I have a lot of support network around me now. I'm
yeah,
very happy about it. I think if I did not get all that, I wouldn't have had that network if I had to start it from the ground. Let's say I don't have anything. Okay, I don't speak in public. I am a very normal, just go to office project manager. And if I lost my job, I have to find a job,
yeah,
right? So now those things don't exist anymore. If
yeah,
ever I will lose a job, I am not worried. I know it will be fine. So now the thing is, it has, I mean, I have so many mentors now that in this space, for example, even if I want to, let's say, transition or move on from project management to some director, or I don't know, whatever, I might want to transition my career into something more revenue generating,
yeah, yeah,
like director revenue generating. And that kind of support network, it's already there. And I think it's good to get engaged in the community because normally I personally believe people have good intentions at heart. Everybody wants to do good to you. There may be 0 point, I don't know, 1% of people who are wishing bad for you or do not want to
yeah.
help you, but mostly it's a very supportive world. And yeah, I think I have all the positive words here.
Okay, okay, excellent, excellent, awesome. And do you have any message for those viewers tuning in who they're a little camera shy, they don't want to be speakers, and take advantage of the kind of same involvement that you have in the community, like any message for them, or?
I don't know, what do you have to be shy about?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
So I mean, exactly, it's normal people. Even if it's CEO of whatever, we are all normal human being. Once you talk to somebody, whoever is famous, rich, whatever, at the end of the day, we are all human beings. Just get your game going from that level. That's it.
Mhm. Okay, okay, fantastic. So Jaspreet, you shared so much great information. Really appreciate that. So I'm gonna go into the questions now from the viewers,
Sure.
and folks, anyone has any questions, let me know. So we're gonna get into the Q&A, and let's see here. So we have a question here from I guess you've already answered this question from Amit, like how to start a career as a project manager. Anything you want to add to that, Jaspreet, besides what you've already mentioned?
So, firstly, Amit, what's your background? Because are you thinking that you want to start like from college directly into project management? Then I would say you have to get into maybe a smaller company or get a project coordinator role or project assistant somewhere. You could use some sort of leadership or management skills. It is not important for you to be a programmer for 10, 20 years or a solutions architect and then jump into project management. I know that kind of thinking exists in India, I've been told. And but I don't think that applies because your skill set is totally different, and it doesn't matter. Just get into Get into maybe a project coordinator, project assistant, assistant manager, those
Oh,
kind of
he
roles.
actually gave an update. He said I'm a QA.
Yeah, from a QA, if you are working for, let's say, an agile team or something, try to take on a scrum master role. That will be your, then I mean, scrum master is a, it's a smaller role, but it will help you transition into project management or director of PMs whatsoever, and very easily.
Okay, awesome. So hope that answers your question, Amit, and thanks, Jaspreet. And a question from Aisha. Aisha says ITPM roles are very limited with tough competition. What should I do to get PM role easily with experience of over 12 years abroad with no Canadian experience?
Well, I think, uh, first of
Well,
all, I, of course, like, you have to be updated with all the methodologies. Like, if you look at my, what if you look at how I choose my projects or how I transition the companies, you will see what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. So I've done this this normal waterfall, okay, then I went on to doing this scrum. You have to go on to safe. I no I mean, I'm not instructing you, but what I'm trying to do is basically, I'm trying to get under my belt all the types of methodologies, the frameworks that already exist, because that is what will make you stand out. That is what will bring the value to table, because now that you know how processes work, process improvement, that is like, that can apply it even to operations, right? And then you might have this ITIL going on, then there is this PMP going on. I mean, there is different types of nexus. I mean, there are so many frameworks. Get that knowledge in. And then, regarding having no Canadian experience, I'm not sure. I think you, there is a lot to do also with networking on how,
yeah,
because they say like your energy introduces you before you even speak up your name.
true.
So I mean, I'm not sure like how can I answer your Canadian experience question, but definitely I want to tell you that years of experience, that is bullshit. So what is more important is, I have met people who are 3, 4, 5 years into their career doing super great. And I have met people who are 20, 10, 15 years working, I don't know, not that much. So it is more about the quality of the number of years, not just the years. I mean, just sure, get your network ready, get involved. You know, people are usually ready to help, but just always dig the well before you want to get the water out of it. Okay.
Yeah, great advice. I especially like what you said about what did you say about the energy? What is it? What did you say?
I
Energy.
said like your energy introduces you before you even speak up your
Yeah,
name.
yeah, I like that. I really like that because I always tell that to people as well, right? If you think a certain way, that's gonna come across, in your
Yeah, you radiate that kind of energy,
yeah, yeah,
right? So
yeah, exactly. So hope that helps, Aisha. And we got a question from Dave. Dave says, "Hi, Jaspreet and Dean. How much time or energy do you spend making a WBS? Is it a good practice? Is it a good practice to make a cost WBS along with the standard WBS?"
hi, actually, I do not, I'm not a very, I'm not the type of person who rely too much on the process. Of course, you need a WBS, and you need to. The reason for you to make a WBS is to make sure that your scope doesn't get out of it, and your responsibilities across your team is definable. That is basically the whole why of your WBS. Is it a good practice to make a cost WBS along with standard WBS? Uh, Depends on the project. What kind of, is it a fixed budget or time and material? It depends. I think it will really depend on your organization. How much of a focus do they really put onto your document or onto your delivery? But according to me, delivery is much important.
Okay, great, awesome. Thanks, Jaspreet. And Dave, hope that. And actually, another question from Dave is: do you use more of an agile approach to your projects?
Well, I'm not the type of person who try to fit one framework into any project. For me, being agile is being able to adapt. Okay. If you are telling me that I want to forcefully enforce, I don't know, Scrum or Kanban or DevOps into a certain project, some of the projects might actually fail at that
Hmm.
methodology. So, waterfall is not bad. If you know what you need to do not waste your time in all that ceremonies. But if you think that there is a lot of uncertainty, go for your shorter iterations, right? So the best process, the best methodology is the one that works the best for your project.
Okay. Okay. Makes sense. Pankaj, we got a hi from Pankaj. Hey, Pankaj, thanks for tuning
Hello.
in. Nice to see you.
I saw
Uh,
your friend request. Hi.
yeah, I know Pankaj, really cool guy. He's an awesome guy. So Dave, another question from Dave. Dave says, how do you curtail scope creep?
Okay, so scope creep is it's super important. It doesn't matter what kind of methodology you're running on, because at the start of the project you have to identify what are must have, what are nice to have, what are good to have, what you don't need to have, because you will really waste a lot of your valuable time if you're not cutting out your scope. I mean, if you're letting your scope just grow like, a tree in the sky, I don't know, trees
There
don't grow in the sky. So but basically, I mean, the roots of the tree growing in the ground, that makes sense.
we go. That
Okay.
makes
Okay, so yeah, you have to watch your scope. It doesn't matter what, if it's agile, scrum, safe, whatever it is. Do not, I mean, of course you have to take into account what you may call this, certain functionalities that you might not be able to work without, right? So of course, go to do your budget amendment if you have to, but anything like, putting a cherry on the cake and then adding some almonds on top of the cake, also some fruits, that's like decorating, over decorating. Do not do it. I would focus on what are my features that are most critically required for a certain application to work.
okay,
I
awesome.
hope that answers your question.
Awesome. Thanks, Jaspreet. And Dave, hope that answers your question. Dheeraj says you both are wonderful mentor in your field as well. Thank you, Dheeraj.
Oh,
Appreciate
I think it's the first time I thought I was a mentor. Okay, thank you.
it. there, you go. There you go. Amit says, thank you so much for addressing my question. No worries, Amit. And Sunil Gupta says, good discussion, Dean and Jaspreet. Awesome.
I think I know Sunil Gupta. Hi.
Yeah, hi Sunil. Thanks for tuning in. Appreciate the feedback. So it looks like that's it, Jaspreet. You given us more than half, almost 45
No
minutes.
problem.
So appreciate your time, and we learned so much from everything you shared from us, folks. Make sure you thank Jaspreet in the comments. Make sure you like, comment, share this post, and Jaspreet. Like, so where for those people who want to follow you or connect with you, do you have like a blog or something like that, or what's the best way for people to
I
further
mean,
the
it's
conversation?
my LinkedIn is there. I have a very unique name. You won't find people with the same name as I am, so that's easy to find me. I think that's the only thing I have. I do have a personal website which is just redirecting into my LinkedIn. So one day it will be up. For those who are following me on LinkedIn, I'll make a shout out that, hey guys, I have updated my personal website.
Awesome, awesome, fantastic, fantastic. And are you speaking at? I guess where are you? You're speaking at the November event with the PMI over here, or what?
I'm just anchoring it actually.
Oh
So
yeah.
I'll
Oh,
be
you're
like
going to be the
introducing
answer.
people,
Okay, nice.
introducing people like, hey, meet the most awesome guy in Canada. His name is Dean, and he has helped, put moon into the space. I don't know.
Wow, wow, that's like fantastic. Yeah. Okay. Awesome. So yeah. So we'll for those of you folks who are going to be joining that event, I think it's November 7th. It's the PMI PD day for PMI Ontario, I think.
We're
So
expecting around like 500 people, I think.
yeah, yeah, that's fantastic. Oh well, now I'm even more nervous. Thanks a lot.
No,
But
I don't worry. I'll give you some water,
okay,
through
okay,
the
all right.
laptop.
Yeah, just FedEx it over to me. I should be fine. Yeah, but yeah, folks, make sure you check that out if you're attending. You'll be able to see Jaspreet and myself as well on that event. I'll be speaking about job search stuff. But thanks everyone for tuning in. Jaspreet, thanks so much again, folks. Anyone who wants to follow or connect with Jaspreet, send her a connection request. If you want to follow her and then see what she's up to in the PM space. All right, so thanks so much, everyone. Have a good evening, Jaspreet. Thanks so much again, and we'll connect again soon. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.